Hello and welcome to this webinar demonstrating CloudzUp, brought to you by IcosaLogic. What is CloudzUp? CloudzUp is an intelligent web-based application generator that creates and deploys a fully functional web application to AWS Elastic Beanstalk in 2 easy steps. Step 1. Simply create a new CloudzUp project by entering some configuration parameters. Click a button and the application is created. Step 2. Click the Deploy button and your application is up in the cloud. In this demonstration, we will build, deploy, test, and terminate a fully functional web application to Amazon AWS Elastic Beanstalk from the CloudzUp console. The generated solution is architected for the cloud. What CloudzUp does is read the DB schema, generate the entire application, and deploy it to AWS Elastic Beanstalk. There are some prerequisites required. Naturally, you need a valid active AWS account signed up for the following services: S3, EC2, and RDS. You need the AWS account settings, which consist of the access key and password, and the account ID. Naturally, you need a database deployed into Amazon RDS and the login credentials for the database. Finally, you need a valid active CloudzUp account. Now let's go ahead and get started. This is the CloudzUp console, is hosted by IcosaLogic.com. And for the sake of speed, I've pre-populated the parameters required to create the application. You can see the project name and the root package. The root package is actually the name of the WAR file. The project name will be the title for the generated application. You can see the AWS account info filled in, and the RDS name, also the DB name and username, and of course the DB password. So, next thing we need to do is click the Create button to get started, but I've got a little stopwatch application I'm going to launch here so we can see how fast CloudzUp really is. Let's go ahead and hit Start and Create. You can see that the icon for the cursor has changed to a spinning wheel. That means that the application is being generated. What's happening right now is CloudzUp is reading the database schema, generating Java DAO and servlet object classes for the server-side code, generating the HTML framework, the JavaScript MVP classes for the client-side code. It's compiling the Java code, minimizing JavaScript code, and building a WAR file. Typically this takes about a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the log so you can get an idea of what is happening in the background here. We have very verbose logging, and you can see everything that's going on. And we can scroll all the way down to the bottom, hide the log, and there we have it. Our project has been completed, and you can see it took just about a minute. The next thing we're going to do is deploy to AWS. We do that by actually clicking on this link right here. And again, the cursor is going to change to a spinning wheel. In a moment, the page will refresh. There we go. So we are deploying to AWS and Elastic Beanstalk in particular. It's a hierarchy of AWS services, S3, EC2, and the Elastic Load Balancer. I'm going to click on this refresh. And this is actually pulling the message in from Amazon AWS. You can see already we've created the load balancer. We're using Elastic Beanstalk, created an auto scaling trigger group and a launch config, and we're waiting for the EC2 instance to launch. Go ahead and click refresh on that. And while we're waiting for this to finish, I'll just go ahead and click on a few of these tabs over here on the CloudzUp console. You can see we've got credentials that have been created. It took from the quick project config and created these for us. It's also created the data sources, and you can see here's the RDS instance that we're using. These are the tables that were in the schema. This is our HTML web application. Go back down to configs here, select our project. And now it's adding the EC2 instances to the load balancer. And you can see actually some details about our configuration here. It's our first build, and here's the AWS credentials we used. The solution is actually being deployed to 32-bit Linux Tomcat 7, and that's our description. We create a CNAME prefix for you, and there's the AWS environment ID. If you were to create a project manually, you can actually specify many of these parameters. But doing the quick project takes care of all of it for us. It's the fastest and easiest way to get your application created and deployed. Let's go down here and click on the builds, and you can see here's our project that we built. It was completed, it was successful, and it's been referenced. And here are some of the details about the build: the date and time, who built it, the source file, the binary file, the log file, and the AWS S3 object are all provided for you here. Let's go back to the configs, see how our project's doing in its deployment. Still adding to the load balancer. So let's go back up here to some more of the tabs on the console. We'll click on the users. You can see I'm the only user that's configured for this account. And here are some of the details about my user ID. Here's the RDS instance again. Let's go take a look at some of the details on that. A lot of these parameters come in from Amazon, and they're just the defaults. Status, you can see, is available. Click down on the configs again, and you get the idea that the console here for CloudzUp consists of 3 panels really. A left panel, which is kind of a tabbed, if you will, implementation. When you click on a particular tab, the center pane will update with the details that you can see, and you select the item in the center pane, and it will display the details in the far right pane. Okay, and it looks like our application has completed. So now it's out and running. You can see it's got a public DNS name. We can go ahead and click on Browse to the running application to test our application. And here it is, Project 1. All the tables in the database schema that we pointed to are listed here on the left pane, just as would be in the console. And this is just the default HTML that is generated by CloudzUp. Naturally, you probably want to apply your own CSS and styling to the result. We'll go ahead and click on Roll. And right now, what's happening is it's phoning home, if you will, to get the configuration for the deployment. It's runtime config, and it just happens on the first access of the database, and it's going to read in that role table for us and list all the records in the center pane here. And again, we can always go up here and click on Show Log to get an idea of what's going on in the background. And you can see there it loaded the project. Okay, we got more stuff going on here. Okay, it looks like it's got our role, or our records for the role table, excuse me. Let's hide the log. And there we have it. So we've read the schema created an application, and now we've launched the application from Amazon. It's opened up a table and read back our rows for us. Let's go ahead and create a record in this table. Call this FX02 and FX02. We'll click Create, and that fast, there's our record right there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and close the application. Go back to the CloudzUp console, and we're going to go ahead and terminate the application from AWS. We click the Terminate link here. The screen will refresh, and you can see Terminate Event Environment is starting. So there you have it. You can see that our stopwatch over here has been running continually, and in just over 8 minutes we've built and deployed an application to AWS without writing a stitch of code, just reading in a database schema. And that concludes this webinar on CloudzUp by IcosaLogic. Thank you.